I reckon it would have been 3 weeks in 2023. So
Right.
9 days to 21 days. And what it actually gives you is the sugars don't race, so you're not concerned about the potential alcohol. That's off the table. You're actually able almost to pick on acid ripeness. So you're
Right.
looking, because you're not losing the acid per se, but the nature of the acid, obviously, the tartaric
Changes.
acid is kind of stable and
Yeah.
the malic acid tends to drop off. So you're sort of waiting for that succulence of acid and all the while building a little more depth and complexity. The 2024 Chardonnays, to be honest, are quite monochromatic because we picked them in such a rush, with the heat that we had. You do just tend to get, you're so focused on freshness and maintaining vitality in Chardonnay in a warmer year, warmer
Yeah.
climate.
Yeah.
And then a victim of that is depth and layers. And I think we see that in this 23. You've got the
What's fascinating for me, most of the Mogs Chardonnay 23s are out now. Where this one distinguishes itself with me from the ones that I've had is there's this beautiful rich ripeness that's tempered by acid. So there seems to be these two characteristics that work in sync with each other, as opposed
yes,
to quite a number of others that are very linear and making a very specific point, and somehow, certainly at this stage, not showing the level of fruit that yours is. So there's this bounteous mid palate plus a
yes.
wonderful architecture to it.
Well, I think you've just described Margaret River's secret sauce. I think, and it's a little bit the Gingin clone. I think it's got the
Right,
ability to get that richness that you're talking about whilst maintaining the line.
right.
We've got quite a bit of Dijon clone. It doesn't tend to do that quite so successfully. It's more transparent, more fragile, and it's a bit more of a black or white.
Uh-huh.
But Gingin just seems to be one of those ones, particularly in year like 23, and I should say 26, which is a
Right.
very close relative of 23. This ability for Gingin just to push
Okay.
and to achieve that next level of richness, as you say, with the vitality.
Really
Um,
delicious. I'm so inspired as to where it's going to go, because that acid is so profoundly part of the matrix of the flavor profile of the wine. It's going to just get bigger and more gorgeous
mhm,
as time progresses. I think it's going to be amazing.
my word.
Um,
And I'm really pleased. I mean, we don't look at these every day. We're just
yeah,
about to move from 23 to 24 in Australia.
right.
Um, what I'm most pleased with is how harmonious the oak is.
Yeah,
There is a little bit of a tendency in Margaret River to throw a bit of oak at
yeah.
Chardonnay and
Mm,
Cabernet, to be honest.
mm,
We are working really hard to kind of, obviously everything's in oak and there's a
yeah,
portion that's new.
yeah.
Taking the edges off the coopers we're using, more puncheons, less barriques,
Right.
everything we can do to bring harmony and integration to oak so it doesn't define the wine is really important to us.
For the purpose of the recording, I've got a question from one of our regular wine gurus who is busy at another tasting at the same time. He says, in Europe, Cabernet and Chardonnay require entirely different universes of soil and climate. Yet in Margaret River and also within the Voyager portfolio, you're nailing both varietals. Is there truly a distinct soil-driven terroir of Margaret River Chardonnay, or is it purely a climatic winemaking phenomenon? And then a further question to that, with global warming, will Margs become too hot for Chardonnay?
Yeah, well, how long have we got?
Yeah.
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
And I'll take it as there's kind of two questions in there. One is how on earth are you doing Cabernet and Chardonnay in the same vineyard in the
Yeah.
same obviously the same region in the same year so well? Um, and then is the soil or is what sort of drives the quality of Margaret River Chardonnay, soil driven,
Oh,
or is it just the climate? So the first answer I would say that how do you do Cabernet and Chardonnay well? Um, Probably the outlier is actually Chardonnay. Everything climatically in Margaret River lines up for Cabernet. So everything
okay.
points to Cabernet. And that's what John Gladstone's observed. And that's why
Right.
Margaret River was planted in the first place, is because he
Right.
looked at
Because of
Margaret River
Cabernet.
and yeah, he
Yeah.
looked at Margaret River um, and Pauillac. And he
Yeah.
just couldn't separate them for temperature, for rainfall, for
Yeah.
everything, and then the maritime influence. He's like that just lines up too eerily. So it was, Cabernet that got Margaret River planted, and then people were more about Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc. So, Voyager's reserve white wine for a very long time was a Semillon Sauvignon Blanc blend, and they
Yeah.
weren't that unusual. Vas Felix would have been similar, Mosswood would have been
Yarrow's
similar.
been doing it for forever, that
Yeah, yeah,
LTP.
that's right.
Yeah.
And then it was probably Lewin that kind of carried the flag for Chardonnay, and then it's become what it's become.
Yeah.
So I would say, what is the norm is Cabernet. Now, why does Chardonnay work? That's the question. And that's mostly down to the proximity to the Southern Ocean. In latitude, we're not really far off Sydney. If you drew a line to the East
Correct.
Coast,
Yeah.
latitude wide, we should be by and rights really quite warm. And
Mhm.
Perth, we know, is an incredibly warm place. Um,
In
so for
fact, Margaret
us,
River is pretty close to Stellenbosch as well, from a
yeah,
latitude point of view.
spot on. So we've
Yeah.
we've got the potential heat there, and as we've seen in 24 and 25. So it is really that air conditioner of the Southern Ocean that brings Chardonnay into the frame.
Mhm.
Um, and yes, we probably prefer to be south of Margaret River Town. So if Margaret River Town splits the 100 kilometres north south of Margaret River, you would prefer to be south of Margaret River. You'll get slightly more rainfall and slightly cooler summer
Good.
temperatures.
Yeah.
So I hope that kind of answers the question. But in terms of soil, I wouldn't just. I think I can hand on heart say Cabernet Margaret River should be planted on a gravel loam over clay,
Mhm.
100%. I don't see anything interesting happening anywhere else, and that's the carry loam gravel that runs north to south on the Lewin Ridge. Um, Chardonnay's not quite so cut and dried. All of our Chardonnay, yes, is planted on gravel, but I know other producers in the region are happy enough with sand and are happy enough with a higher loam,
Right.
and even some clay. So yeah, no, Chardonnay is much more, much less fussy than Cabernet
Right.
in terms of its soil, and probably would be vintage dependent,
Got it.
of what
So
I would
the
say.
better vintages will be more exceptionally better as opposed to the Cabernets being not quite those big peaks and troughs between good and
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah,
right.
for sure.
Okay.
As
Yeah.
for the last question, global warming, will Margaret River become too hot? There is concern, and on two levels. One is winter. The winters are getting warmer, and that means you don't get the dormancy that you would get in Burgundy or Champagne or Tasmania with Chardonnay. That's a concern because dormancy is an important time for the vine to take carbohydrates back into its roots to have a genuine break,
Right.
and then obviously have a lovely distinct bud burst in the spring where it's like I mean the winter of 23 into the summer of 24, it felt like we never got a dormancy. We almost had a false bud burst. Um, and yeah, I think that could start happening. You could see that happening with more regularity. Yeah, they took a lot with apples. Apples genuinely need the chill factor to
Yes.
to flower and fruit. Like
Yeah.
you need that just for the apples to function. We're not at that point yet, but if it upsets the cycle that much,
Yeah.
you could see a sort of general decline if we stop getting proper winters. So that's the first concern. And then, of course, if you get an early bud burst, everything happens early. You're flowering, your fruit set, everything's in a more volatile time of the year, in sort of late August, early September when we get our storms, we get our hail events. So you're bringing all that very, very delicate time forward into a really volatile time of year. So your crops will suffer as a result. So that's the first global warming concern. And then the second is the extreme. So, the 24 hottest, driest vintage on record, and you're getting a lot of sun at that fruit.
And the
You're on the
maritime influence is not saving it.
correct. If you're not getting a southwesterly breeze blowing, you may as well
You really are
be in
toast.
Perth,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, we are wondering how do we approach trying to take the edge off those extremes. So is it the orientation of the vineyard? We're traditionally north south, so you're getting
Yeah.
that full west sun in.
Mm.
Um, and are we looking at trying to get more coverage? We've always been a bit worried about powdery mildew and has the
Right.
fruit got enough sun? Now we're going to have to start thinking about has
Too
the fruit
much.
got too much sun?
I think it might have been Hugh Mugford recently when we did one of these tastings, and Derek might have actually asked the same question. And I think it was Hugh, I can't remember, I'm getting too old. But I think he said something to the effect that he's seeing vines adapting to the change. There's a definite change in how the wines are, the grapes are growing. But he didn't answer completely about whether those adaptations will actually totally manage to take care of these climatic changes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they talk. I don't know if you're talking about is it epigenetics? It's basically the vine sort of switching on and
Mm.
off various genes to
Yeah,
adapt to the situation they're in.
yeah,
Yeah, I could definitely. Yeah, and I think that's gingin. I think gingin's been in Margaret River so long
got it.
that it's that
Okay,
it's evolved in situ. If we
right.
took that same cutting material back to, we took new material from the Davis nursery it came from,
Yeah,
that they would today be very
yeah,
different vines.
got you.
So
All
so
right,
there'd be a bit of that going on for
that's
sure.
super interesting. All right, let's get on to these reds. Now, Tim, I'm sorry if I got the order not the way you'd like
Oh
it.
no,
Last minute, let's deal with the Girth by Sea first, but and then
yeah,
I'll talk about the cabs. So
yeah.
maybe
Now
you
this
can take us
this
through
did
that.
predate me, so there's a bit of a mea culpa there. I can't speak too much to the making. I know
Yeah.
it was an excellent vintage in Margaret River. So 2020 is known as a warmer vintage, a very high tannin vintage,
Yep.
and probably quite a relatively savoury vintage. So yeah, true ripeness in Cabernet, thought of as a very good year. Go by Sea always over delivers. The guys, to be honest, go in trying to make everything be incredible in Cabernet world. And yes, some things do drop out,
Yep.
but it gets all the winemaking that of the two more wines that you'll see tonight, very similar, levels of vineyard and winery investment. Um,
Distinct, distinctly younger vines by comparison to your home blocks, right?
true. And a
Definitely
few different
showing.
clones coming in there as well.
Yeah.
SA126. This one would have had some 337. Yeah, in 2020 there would have just been some 337. I reckon some
Okay.
very young 337.
Right. So definitely an earlier drinking wine. I noticed that Ray gives this a solid 94. It's relative to its price point. People who order it tonight are paying 38 Singapore dollars if they buy this wine tonight. The database is going to pay a lot more tomorrow. Lou's wandering around looking for buyers for one of his lungs, so we can afford the the loss of profit on the pricing that I set up tonight. But I think it's phenomenal value. What are your thoughts on Ray Jordan? He seems to be one of the driving wine critics these days for Margaret River,
Yep.
particularly. It's obviously, I think that's his home base, right? Perth is
Yeah. He lives in Perth.
right.
It's fair to say the two Perth critics that sort of people listen to would be, and they're really very on very different ends of some spectrum.
Yeah,
Ray is very local, really done his time.
right.
Has been there as the industry has grown up.
Yeah,
So he is a little bit the Halliday of Western Australia,
got it.
in
Yeah.
that he's kind of been there since the start. In
Mm.
the best possible way, he gets on really well with everybody. And yeah, let's be honest, he just loves he loves
Yeah.
West Australian wine in the best possible way.
It's so
Um,
interesting because when you read his notes on other wines from other regions, there isn't this kind of blossoming love for
no,
the wine quite to the degree that he obviously loves the Margaret River wine.
yeah,
So
correct.
I love to read his stuff.
Yeah, he's so passionate, and
He
uh,
takes
and and
great
he's a good
joy in.
writer as well. Like I think he's a journalist
Yeah,
first and a wine critic
yeah,
later, sort of second.
yeah.
And then you've got Aaron Larkin who writes
I love Aaron's
for
stuff.
Robert
Yeah,
Parker.
yeah.
He says with no, yeah, wine advocate. Yeah.
And she's
And
super
she
good with her digital stuff as well. Her YouTube channel
Correct.
is pretty good.
Yeah, true.
Mm.
So they're the sort of two shining lights. And yeah, look, I think Ray's got just a great broad knowledge of who's who and what's coming
Sure.
from where, and yeah,
Yeah.
and
What's
what's
going
in the
on?
context of things. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be happy enough to follow Ray.
All right.
Um,
Well, let's move on to this 2015 Cabernet, which
yeah,
oh geez, I'm just loving it so much. Maybe I'm falling. Lou, what do you think? Maybe I'm falling in love too much with it, but I'm a bit obsessed. I think it's looking exactly right now. And so whatever made you decide to do this as a Cellar release this year, I think was
mm.
insanely good timing.
So it is actually the inaugural uh, cellar release for us,
Right.
and we've always been quite good, but particularly in the cellar door, having older vintages.
Yeah.
Um, Apologies if you can hear screaming children in the background. That's what happens in my house at this time of night. They're not dying. Don't call the cops. Um, and so yeah, we decided for the first time we'd actually put down. We're very good at putting wine away, and we're very good at storing wine. We've got. If anyone's been to Voyager, and I dare say a few of your people tuning in would have, the garden you enter into to sort of turn right and go to the cellar door. Um, you actually have underneath you a cellar that's been basically dynamited out of the hillside. So Michael just blew straight into the granite. He took the garden away, blew straight in the granite. This is Michael Wright, who started Voyager, and
Right.
then put the concrete back on top, put the garden back on top. So you're literally walking on our underground cellar when you come into
Oh,
the
that's
cellar door.
amazing. Yeah.
And the good news about that is we're actually finally going to move. The plan was always to have the winery underneath as well, and never happened because Michael passed away in 2012.
Yeah.
But we're finally in the next year or so we're going to be moving underground. So the
Brilliant.
dream, and don't hold me to
Oh,
this within 12
oh,
months, but soon enough, there's actually going to be an elevator from the garden straight down into the cellar. So
And
we've got
will you
glass
be
elevator.
gravity fed in terms of the
Yeah, we're working on, yeah,
yeah,
how are we gonna, yeah, it's a very high ceiling edifice, so yeah,
yeah.
that should be possible. And then yeah, you'll be entering via an elevator, and then you'll have the whole thing sort of playing out in front of you.
Sounds
So that'll be
amazing.
super cool. Yeah, it'll be really good.
Yeah.
Um, that was the long run up of saying we've always had amazing space and an ability to store wines, and we realized we'd put away enough each year that we actually were able to re-release this 2020 2015 as a 10-year-old,
Uh,
and that's what we're going to do. So our current release Cab Sav is the
25.
2015, and soon enough we'll go on to the 16 and obviously
Yeah.
and so
Oh,
on.
that's
So
brilliant.
the first Cab Sav that I made for Voyager Estate, which is the 2023, we won't release till 2033.
Right.
And that's just what we're going to do. We always tell people, Margaret River Cabernet looks its best at 10 years old, and nobody kind of pays any attention and just
Correct.
drinks
Yeah.
it that night, which is understandable. And also, even if they do store it, they're always a bit like, oh, we haven't got great
No.
conditions to store it in. It's a bit
Well, what's
warm.
especially here in Singapore, I mean, I break into a sweat even delivering to someone's house. The few minutes from the chiller van
Yeah,
to back into their fridge at home, the wines are at risk. It's literally that. And I
yeah,
think that's what I'm loving so much about this 15. In every respect, it's obviously been perfectly cellared. I think Kelvin's only just taken delivery of it from you.
yep, yep. And
So
that's the key. Under a screw cap, perfectly cellared. And
so
50, we're really
brilliant.
happy we started with the 15. 15 is not the greatest vintage of all time, but 15
Well,
is a lovely, cool, fresh lens on Cabernet. So it's aged really nicely.
I didn't want to sound bratty, but what I wanted to say was I can't wait for the 17 reserve because
That's it.
that's gonna kick some crazy goals when it finally comes out.
And it's a 10-year minimum. So yeah, we've only just moved to the 16 in
Yeah,
Australia in the Cellar.
yeah.
So obviously, yeah, we'll just be trying to keep up with that. And yeah,
There's something about the phenolics on this 15 that it's died down a little bit since I put it in the glass, but there's this beautiful sweet leather lift to the phenolics of it that I find completely addictive. I'm not sure when Ray talks about library book notes, is he talking about paper? What's library book? I don't,
yeah, that's a good question.
let's hope it's
Yeah.
not the vinyl wrapping on the outside of the book, but let's assume he's not
Yeah.
saying that.
I guess that just that sort of that sense you get when you walk into a library, an old bookstore, I suppose.
Oh yeah,
It's
okay.
that just that enticing,
Yeah,
dusty
yeah, yeah.
slash,
Yeah, yeah,
dare
yeah.
I say, musty, but yeah, in a good way.
Yeah. It really delicious. And then going on to number four, the 23 Cabernets.
Yes.
Huge rating. I mean, if you're going to play the ratings game, this is obviously the value for money play in the lineup tonight. Can you tell us a bit about what else is in the wine other than the Cabernet?
Yeah, so I'll just step back a bit. Voyager Estate really claim to fame was the Cabernet Merlots of the early 2000s. There's Langton's classification, Cliff Royal was running around. The Voyager Estate. It was the first time they came on the scene. It was a Cabernet Merlot, and it was up there with Vas Felix, Lewin,
Yeah,
Cullen. People were putting, and it was at the time it was a lot cheaper than those wines, and people raved about the '01, the '04, and the '07 in particular. Um, and then it was just the vagaries of Merlot, which everyone's well aware of, and what happened with Merlot's reputation. Just
yes,
the word Merlot and all of that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and the powers that be before my time decided Voyager needed to make a straight cab Sav, which is what
Oh,
you've just tasted, and the Merlot kind of went by the wayside. And ironically, in that time, we also planted two new blocks of Merlot with two new clones that Australia hadn't seen before on much better sites for Merlot. So the history of Merlot in Australia is not only poor
right.
clonal material, it's also, oh, we've got the last little spot in the vineyard, we'll put Merlot there. There was no planning around where Merlot went. Merlot was like, oh, we have to have 10% Merlot, we'll put it
Yeah,
there
yeah,
because nothing else wants to go there. So people's Merlot fruit material was always very poor. And that might have been part of the sort of descent of Merlot reputation wise. So at the same time as calling these wines straight cab Sav, we've also decided to plant two wonderful blocks of Merlot, which was kind of a pincer maneuver on ourselves. And what do we? I've walked in 2022 to, geez, you guys have got fabulous Merlot. What on earth do we do with it?
yeah,
And
yeah,
the answer was, oh, we kind of do a straight Merlot for Cellar, but that's about it.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and of course the elephant in the room is south of Margaret River we do pick Cabernet at least 10 days, maybe 2 weeks later than Willy
later.
Abrupts.
Yeah.
So we're entering a little bit of a dodgy phase of the year. We always seem to cop some sort of rain event just to keep us on our toes. Willy Abrupts sails through Cabernet harvest, no problems, glorious weather. Easter comes and we always seem to get that little tickle up of something, just to sort of make us question our own existence in the world. And honestly, the 23, 4, 5, 6, all four vintages have had some sort of event right on the cusp of Cabernet ripeness. So there's going to come a time when Cabernet is hopelessly compromised by something that hits us late. So you must have Merlot up your sleeve to
Yeah.
make a wine. And then, as you alluded to, much lesser proportion Malbec, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet Franc in this wine.
All right. A lot of people are saying that Cabernet Franc probably has a better event horizon climate-wise, that it copes better with the heat, and maybe is something to lean into. A lot of the Margs guys are looking at that quite, the
Yeah, my
percentages
word.
quite more carefully.
Yeah,
But the one
and straight Cabernet Francs. You've got some lovely straight Cabernet
Oh,
Francs.
yeah, and I'm a bit obsessed. It's my favorite varietal, having been baptized in Cabernet Franc in South Africa. So it's definitely my go-to varietal. The other thing, just to touch on the Merlot, that question that you raised, I think that I started to really believe in Margaret River Merlot in the last 5 or 6 years with the release of the second label from Mosswood, where it's a Merlot dominant blend with more Merlot than
Yep,
Cabernet.
yep,
And that is such a great wine. And
yep.
honestly, I feel like I'm cheating on the Mosswood estate, but that second tier Mosswood is so delicious. It's just amazing. And I noticed that if one just views the ratings and the relative pricing, it's getting up there. So I think
Yeah, yeah,
my reading of it is that the market is actually appreciating it for what it is as a Merlot dominant wine.
yeah,
And
and
that's
I'm
super
not
interesting.
surprised. We taste blind when we taste all our Bordeaux batches, and
Yeah,
we'll quite often not work out that it's Merlot, and we'll quite often say the best batch of the day was a
yeah,
Merlot. So
yeah.
certainly 2023, the best red wine we made in 23 was a Merlot,
Merlot, yeah.
which is so it's just going to be very vintage dependent. But that's exciting. I think this wine, the great thing about the word Cabernets, which was a gift given to us by
Hmm.
Wine Australia, but when claret was no longer, when the
Yeah,
EU said you're not allowed to use the word claret anymore, which is
yeah,
ironic because claret is an English word.
yeah.
So potentially we should be
So
able to use it
crazy. Yeah.
again. But anyway, so Cabernet is like you can use Cabernets. It can be any Bordeaux variety in any proportion. There will
Yeah.
come a time when this will be more than 50% Merlot. This wine, no doubt, and we'll still call it Cabernets because
So
that's
to that,
it's in
well, I remember back in the day, the Mount Mary quintets was when I first started trying to this was a long time ago, trying to wrap my head
yeah,
around Bordeaux varietals. And it was then that I first encountered this one size fits all, call it Cabernets. And, and you don't know really what you're going to get in it unless you do your homework. But it was then that I started to really look into this idea of what the dominant varietal might be in Australia, depending on terroir. So in this instance, with this estate Cabernets 23, what percentage is Merlot?
This would be, get this right, this would be 35% Merlot.
Oh, that's a lot. Oh, I thought it
Yes,
was
this would
much
be
less.
35%. Yeah, no, it's about, what do we got? 55 Cab, 35 Merlot, and the rest made up
Yeah.
of Malbec, mostly Malbec, then Petit Verdot, and tiny bit of Cab Franc.
Well, Derek
Um,
makes the point. It's time to make Merlot sexy again. Derek,
yeah.
I think we have to put it in a Dolce and Gabbana skirt, mini skirt, and
Well, there's
give
plenty
us.
of winemakers who just absolutely gobsmacked that this movement towards lighter framed
Yeah.
bright aromatic reds has
Mm.
not led to Merlot. That
Yeah.
is Merlot and made well. Much
Yeah.
truer fruit, much more reliable wines.
Well, I quite like the Australian approach. Just don't mention the word Merlot
Mm,
and let people just
yeah,
buy things
precisely.
like ribbon. I mean, there's nowhere on that Mosswood Ribbonvale label does it say much about Merlot. It
No,
just
no.
happens to have a different characteristic.
Correct.
Uh,
Correct. And then if you ask your average person, what's the predominant grape variety in Bordeaux? They wouldn't
yeah,
say
yeah,
Merlot, but it
yeah,
is by some margin. Some margin. I think it
yeah,
might be 70% or something
yeah,
crazy.
correct. Yeah. All right. Looking at the final one, the
Mm.
MJW, Kelvin tells me that there's just a few dozen available in Singapore, and we're going to be offering them to people tonight. We've got 10 available now with another six behind it, and that's all Kelvin will give us of this particular wine. I'm not here to talk about how wines increase in value, but I was recently bought a 2017 of this and off our marketplace page, and I paid $230 for it, which is really an indication of market support driven by demand for it. So I dare say when that first came on the market, it was a fair clip under that price. But
My word, yeah,
that's
yeah, I
such
would
as
imagine.
demand for this particular label that there's deep interest in it. I see that you guys have it at Cellar at 180 and Sing retail around about 170.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And look, I'm probably giving Calvin the news in front of everyone, but the 2022 when it releases in April of next year will be 250 Australian a bottle. So
really.
yeah, on release. So get into this 20, and you know, I think I spoke to the 20 vintage with the Gervais. You know, this is a wonderful Cabernet vintage in Margaret River,
Oh, it's amazing.
um,
I mean,
and tradition.
I knew that the 20 was going to be great. I think that what's so fabulous about it is this soft, there's a confidence about the wine. There's a soft confidence that just seems to
Yeah,
wrap around you when you drink this wine. I have no idea how long it's going to travel for. I can't take a view on a cellaring at all. And normally I like to think that maybe I can pick it, but I've
yeah,
got
yeah,
no idea because it's so terrific right now.
yeah. And
I
this is
can't
something
pull
we
it
wrestle
apart.
with. We were doing this literally today. We were looking at blending the 2025 MJW Cabernet,
Right,
and we were asking ourselves this exact question. It's like that looks very what we landed on is the one we want to make, which is basically a single batch from North Block.
right.
We looked at each other and said, Tom and I, my 2IC, we said, that's wonderful. Is it too wonderful? You know, is it drinking too well today? And is that a problem?
Mhm.
Does that mean it's not going to age well,
That's
or
my
you know,
thoughts.
does it need to look? Yeah, so the
Yeah,
same. But I think that's us, and he sort of calmed the storm and said, look, I think it's us. I think we make that style of Cabernet. You know, we
okay.
quite often use Pinot descriptors when we're tasting our Cabernet batches.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting. In what context?
yeah,
When you say you use a Pinot descriptor, how do you mean? How do you mean?
Oh, so much more in the lighter. Certainly,
Oh, I
our
see.
textural
Gotcha. Okay,
descriptors are
gotcha.
much more in a lighter frame. Our fruit
Right.
descriptors are much more red fruits.
Yeah.
And yeah, we probably and just to feel the lightness of the wine across your palate. It's
Mm.
not Willy Abrupt, that's for sure.
I started
Um,
thinking about 2020 Margs Cabernet in general terms, and I seem to remember it being also quite a gentle, not an overt vintage. So that's definitely parlaying into this wine. But honestly, if I did this in a blind tasting, there's no ways I'd pick it as a 20. I'd definitely be dialing it back into an earlier vintage. I think it's,
yeah, okay.
yeah,
Um, look, yeah, just for everyone's, there's two main blocks, and again, if you've been to Voyager, Cellar, where you park your car and sort of walk in, and you see that little walled vineyard, that's the old block. Cab Sav, planted in 1978 by Peter Girardi. So Michael Wright actually bought that very small vineyard of Peter.
right,
And then so about half the wine would come from one pick in that block, and then about half the wine would come from the North Block, which is over near to Xanadu,
right.
and has a much higher gravel proportion. So there is maybe the gentleness and the elegance you speak to comes from Old Block. I think the North Block's a little more barren, a little more ironstone, and the
Right.
graphite characters are coming through.
Oh, okay.
Black olive, rosemary, but
There's a question from Derek. Did you change the way you handled the oak treatment in 20? I'd say you probably didn't. I think it's just a reflection of the vintage, but
I think it wouldn't be Cooper's. What might have changed, there might have been a slight clip in new oak, but it still would be a significant, it'd still be 40% plus new oak in that
right,
wine. I think what might have changed is how long the wine was in oak. I think
right.
everybody's leaving their wine in oak less time.
Mm,
I think 20, if you'd gone back 15 or 20 years in Margaret River, it would have been 24 months in oak for your
yeah,
average reserve Cabernet.
yeah.
That would have come back to at least 18 months by the time this wine's coming around, and potentially, yeah, probably 18 months. So 6 months off, and now we're down to 12 to 14 months in oak.
And any
Um, we
thoughts about concrete and Informa and Amphora
Yep, so we've
experiment?
got the full set of concrete fermenters.
Right.
So they hold about 4 tons of fruit, and we're very keen on them. That's the Nicovellos from Italy,
Right.
and that's
And will
also
you
with
be
that.
incorporating that into your mainstream labels, or do you have an idea to do that as a
So
separate?
at least half our batches of Cabernet ferment in concrete now.
Right.
And so for the open ferments, we're looking for aromatics and brightness and whole berry, and a
Mhm.
shorter time on skins. And for the concretes, we're looking for more extraction, a more gentle fermentation, a slower fermentation, and a longer time on skins.
Yeah.
So we're getting two very different batches coming out of those
Mhm.
two different vessels. The conundrum and the one we haven't cracked is maturation in concrete.
Yeah.
And we have tried it, but we find the wines just get held in sepia just too long. Um,
And
and they probably
they're
need
not
CO at some
evolving
point.
properly, or
They're not evolving properly.
right.
So I think where we'll probably land is they go to oak for Malo, they rack and return a little more time in oak, and I think the last 3 or 4 months of the wine before bottle, I think will be concrete. I think that would be
Concrete.
really
Okay.
interesting, just to build some texture, not so sterile as a tank,
Oh,
not so oxidative as a barrel, but
right.
just the polishing and the
Right.
finishing of the wine could be really interesting concrete. But
Right.
I wish I could tell you we fermented in concrete, and then we just fill it back up into concrete and just walk away. But we're
How
we're
amazing.
not at that
Yeah.
point. But I would say Chardonnay and Chenin Blanc,
Yeah, for
absolutely.
sure.
Fermenting in concrete and then topping them up and just walking away is
Yeah.
incredible.
Shannon in concrete is amazing. I love it
Yep.
so much. I mean, the guys in Swartland in South Africa kind of rewrote the book for South Africans anyway, in the Chenin Blanc area, and it's just wonderful stuff.
It's a different world. Shannon doesn't love oak. If it's oak for us with Shannon, it's old oak.
Yeah.
So concrete's just the perfect vessel. It gives you and the crucial thing is Shannon can go stinky. Shannon's always got this problem
Yeah.
with reduction.
Mm.
And concrete, what it does to the ferment, it just
Keeps it fresh.
moderates the temperature and speed. And yeah, there's never any issue with
Yeah.
sulfides in a concrete
Yeah.
fermenter.
Yeah.
Tim,
But
are you guys doing a Shannon now?
Yeah, yes, oh my word. Yeah, we've always done a Shannon. We've got plantings back to Girardi, 1978, and then there's an early 1991 planting. So we've got a
I,
still
I don't
Shannon,
think
and I
I
think
don't think we've ever seen it here. Have we, Rob?
yeah, okay. Kelvin does bring it in, I'm pretty sure.
does he? Well,
Um,
I'll ask him for a price because our database is kind of obsessed with Chenin Blanc. So
yeah, we
Oh,
hear
we
a
have a
lot.
still Shannon and a sparkling
Oh, there he
Shannon.
is.
the still is probably what we're looking for, Kel, I'd say.
Yep, the stocks of that just came in actually.
Oh, good. Okay. Well,
Sorry, I was on
Miserable sod. Give
video
us
off
one.
because I was doing
mate, you're
red the
looking
whole night.
fantastic. Are you working the peloton while you're doing the tasting?
Let's not ask what he's doing with his spare time. No, but Kel, we'd be very interested in having a look at that because yeah, we've got a long history of bringing in South African Shannon. And we brought in some stuff that the Deep Woods did last year, and
Oh,
that
wow.
went really well. We were quite
Yeah,
surprised
Yeah,
cool.
how
it
good
was
it
really
was.
fast. Yeah.
Wow.
Be great
Cool.
to do that. Yeah. I mean, back in the day we did a fair bit of Ibn Saidi and David and Nadia. The single vineyard Shannons from David and Nadia are amazing, but they're getting really expensive now.
Yep, yep.
It's turning into first growth kind of pricing. We're looking at
Yeah.
160 sing a bottle for the three different
Wow.
sites. It's crazy. So they're selling it to the Americans. They arrive
Yeah.
and pay for as long as their US dollar manages to buy anything of
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I mean, who would have thought? The history of Chenin Blanc in Western Australia is, Amberley Chenin Blanc.
Sure. Well,
Horton's White Burgundy was ostensibly a Chenin Blanc and
exactly right.
Verdelho blend, and
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
much loved wines, but fruity, sweet,
Yeah.
pretty innocuous sort of
Mm.
wines.
Tim,
Um,
are you aware of Shannon being planted anywhere else in Australia?
there's a little bit in McLaren Vale. I think the MMAD, the MAD, which is
Oh
the
yeah.
offshoot of Shaw and Smith, is it?
Yeah. That's
Um,
Michael's Hillsmith's
Yeah,
label. Yeah. Yeah.
there's a little bit in Victoria, but nothing particularly dramatic. No, it's WA really flies the flag for Shannon, and obviously mostly on the back of our heat. Particularly, there's some
Mm.
lovely Shannon Blancs in the Swan Valley,
Mm.
which is the hottest wine growing region on earth, from what I understand.
Really? I
Yeah,
didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. That, and I think Cadiz is a close second in Spain.
Jeez. I've been to
Yeah,
Cadiz. That's hell on earth.
yeah.
You're not inside
um,
after 7 o'clock in the morning. You're going to get fried.
yeah.
Yeah, I keep on getting grief because of my Italian upbringing, etc., and that I've got a total bias towards defending the Italian producers when it comes to Italian varietals like Nebbiolo, etc. Is there much of that stuff going on, Sanjo or Nebbiolo in
Lou,
Margaret
this
at the moment?
it's a new wave. It's possibly the savior of the East Coast Australian
Yeah,
wine
yeah,
industry.
my word, your
No,
narrow
East Coast,
dabblers
I
and your
get it, right?
Oh,
Vermentinos.
you
Because
mean
Yeah,
in Margs? Oh, okay.
yeah, it makes, yes. No, it seems like the red everyone's kind of pinned their hopes to is Tempranillo, which I'm a little bit agnostic about.
Uh,
In terms of whites, Fiano is certainly quite widely planted, and a little bit of Vermentino. They're the two I hear about.
okay.
and
But
on
the
the
issue with
reds, Nebbiolo or Sanjo?
no one I know is doing Nebbiolo. I
Okay.
think, yeah, I can't imagine. I think there's two. Margaret River is red wine growing paradise, but I think the two things you shouldn't see are, frankly, are Pinot and Nebbiolo.
Right.
It's almost like it's too good. It's too warm. It's too true.
Is Piero
Um,
still making a Pinot, or are they giving
yeah,
up?
I think Pierre and Moss would definitely make one.
Right.
I reckon Piero do put something out. Um, yeah, but no, look, there's an interesting comment, and I've just seen Derek's question on Shiraz.
Yeah.
We're in a really interesting spot at the moment where I've got our owner who's got trying to set us up for the next 50, 100 years. She doesn't really mess around with these things. And, she's saying to me, what are we going to grow and how are we going to make it? How, frankly, are we going to price and pitch these wines that we're going to be able to make for 100 years?
Yeah.
And I look at Fiorentina and Fiano or Nero and I'm like, I can't, or Tempranillo, I can't navigate a path for you with these wines that leads to the incredible wines like Chardonnay, Chenin, and Cabernet that we make today. So I'm very reluctant because farming organically, the vicissitudes of climate in Margaret River and the soils being so lean, the crops are you never get crop in Margaret River.
I've had no
Um,
problem finding very good Margaret River Shiraz, and for a long time they're
oh,
quite good.
yes. Yeah, my word. Because it's red wine paradise. Like you really
Yeah,
can grow Cabernet and Shiraz next to each other with good results. So yeah, it's just about kind of navigating a way to make incredible wines, but get a return for them because people still only want to pay 25,
Top
30
dollar for the
bucks for a bottle
Cabernet.
of Fiano or
Yeah.
so we've got to have, and it's why it's frankly quite exciting for you to hear you talk about the prices for those South African Chenin Blancs.
Yeah.
There is no ceiling for Chenin Blanc, just like there is no ceiling for Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And as a grower, that's super exciting. Whereas we're in such a shitty scenario with Sauvignon Blanc Semillon, where we make one, it's $25 Australian. Frankly, Deepwoods makes one, it's $15 Australian,
Yeah.
and people don't care. That's
Yeah.
not something that they care about the difference, and they'll never spend more than a 20.
Well,
And
that it's interesting you say that because I'm a little obsessed with Margaret River Pure Semillon, only because it was one of the first things I ever drank 25 years ago, and it just took my head off. It was so good.
mm,
And since then, I've always sought it out when I could find it. And it's underpriced. Why would you want to produce a Semillon where people aren't going to pay more than 25 bones for?
I completely, completely. And look, Cullen, certainly Mosswood,
Mm,
and us, as I think I said at the start,
yeah.
Voyager's first reserve white wine was a Semillon based wine. It was
Yeah.
80+% Semillon, beautiful one. They're still 2010 drinking deliciously today, but we've never been able to capture the market's imagination with those
Yeah.
wines. It's always been a struggle.
Well, I think it was
Um,
Henry Ford who said no one ever got rich changing the way people think. So
yeah,
it's an
correct.
interesting
You got to
marketing.
wave the white flag at some point.
Yeah. Toby, you're right. That number three, that just is so good. The Cabernet, the 2015. It's really
Yeah.
super, super good.
No, it's very exciting. And the great thing now is that we've done it. We released the 10-year-old. Now the work is done. We continue on with this
Mm,
10-year program. The
yeah.
hard work's been done for me, which is great.
But mate, when I think along the lines of this quality of number three, what you normally have to pay for this level of quality out of Margs, this is really not expensive. It
Mm.
really
No,
isn't.
that's good to hear.
No.
I hope Kelvin's listening.
Yeah. No, I hope he's not actually. He didn't keep the price down. I think there's something to do with the fact that it's just finished and ready. I think it's just brilliant in its current position, and I think it's fantastic.
And I think the interesting thing to me with the 10-year thing is we hope that what's happening is the complexity is coming through that we hope for as the wine
Yes,
develops,
yes,
but the fruit
yeah,
maintains. And I'm not 100% convinced a lot of people love super old wines. I was lucky enough to do the Len Evans tutorial a couple of years ago now, and you're looking at crazy old, 60, 70-year-old red wines,
Yeah,
and they're fascinating. But you could also see they'd be quite confronting for a lot of people.
of
They really
course.
are so secondary
Yeah.
and so bizarre. It would take a lot of time to kind of get your head around them.
I have a
And so
friend. I have a friend who is a shareholder in a big Hunter Valley Semillon producer. So whenever I visit him back in Oz, he trundles out these 30, 40-year-old Semillons, and respect, or endless respect. But these wines are the color of how I feel on a Monday morning.
yeah,
It's just nothing attractive about them
correct. That's
at
right.
all. And so I get the history of it, but yeah, there's no ways I could ever possibly
Yeah,
persuade. And even if you think about things like Lovedale from McWilliams, which is one of probably the most famous Semillons in Australia, it's very hard to persuade people to part with. What are we, 65, I think,
yeah, sounds
for the
about right.
Lovedale, something like that. And it's very hard to persuade people
Yep.
to spend that money.
Yeah,
So,
yep, correct. So yeah, if we could be releasing it at the point, if there's a diagram of complexity and
yes,
fruit, if we could be released, there must be a name for that point where the two lines meet.
yeah,
That's what I want, for people to be seeing the two kind of coalescing
yeah,
really nicely, and not too much complexity and not too little fruit.
yeah.
That would be perfect.
Something like the G spot might sell, something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
The G spot is always sold, Robert.
Tim, thanks so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure.
And completely invited to come back with the next release next time around. It's great to see you again, and all the best in Margaret River. We get a constant stream of people coming from Singapore to Margaret River, so I'll forward their inquiries on to you. And
No, you must. Yeah,
if they
absolutely.
could
We're
come
always
say
happy
good
to
day.
welcome. Yeah,
There's always interest in that, and I'll talk to Kelvin about those Shannons and see if we can't include them in the offer tomorrow.
magnificent. No, thank you, Rob, for having us. It's really been an
It's
absolute
awesome.
pleasure.
Toby, I see you haven't been on video tonight. Are you babysitting or something?
Sorry, it's been
Jeez, no kidding.
mayhem. It's been mayhem at our place today, so we've just been.
Hey, Pip, how are you?
I'm so sorry, Tim, that we were listening, we were on it, but we just.
No, that's fine.
It's bedtime, and so we've been trying to deal with that. And our neighbour has popped over as well and joined as well.
Outstanding.
Oh, very nice.
There's always a party at the Gresham's house.
We're a massive fan of Voyager and you guys as well, and what you do, which is I think am I right in thinking on your board you've got Hags? Do you know Hags, Tim?
Oh no, you've lost me.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think there's someone I know who might be on your board who always.
Oh, up in Perth.
Yes, correct.
Oh, that's mining business. I'm not allowed to delve into mining business.
Okay.
That's where the real money comes from. I just spend that money.
Okay, no, fair enough. Yeah, I think he's in it because he gets cases of wine by being on the board, so he absolutely loves that. He's loving your work, so no, fantastic. But honestly, the release cab was the fact you held that back. I love that. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it's so fantastic.
Good to hear.
And respect for imagine the carry cost. This is 10 years.
Oh yeah.
Yep, this wine.
Our accountant has zero hair.
Yeah.
He literally has zero hair. He's the baldest man in Western Australia.
No, it's great. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll send you a summary of the wines if you want to buy them. One more marketing thing. If you buy off the list tonight, you're getting 10% off. The offer to the general database tomorrow is about 5% more. So the salesman in me makes me think that you're getting a 15% discount if you order tonight. So that's my pitch. That's all I'm going to say. But the value is really extraordinary. So thank you all, everybody. And
thank you, Timothy, Robert.
Thanks, guys.
Good
Appreciate
night.
it.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Appreciate it.